Welcome to TOMMO'S Race CHINWAG, your favourite Formula 1 podcast produced by a British biased bloke with a massive Swede full of very questionable wheel knowledge. Broadcast live on YouTube and after the fact on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We have a good old natter about each and every Grand Prix of the season. My name's Tommo, let's talk about it. It's good to be back. I tell you what, when we do have the end of season break, it's going to be tough returning because, wow, 1 week off and it feels like an absolute age. My name's Tommo and welcome back to TOMMO'S Race CHINWAG. Everyone live here on YouTube, all the early ones as well, ZZ, Rainer, Tina, Max, Alex. Appreciate you all taking the time. Thank you all for joining me to talk all about this weekend's 2025 Singapore Grand Prix. No YouTube now would not be a good time to insert ads. I've just started the stream. YouTube, stop it. Calm down, all right? You'll get your money in ad revenue, okay? It's fine. I don't need to spam everyone with ads. Welcome, everyone. Daniel at work. Daniel, I hope you don't get in trouble for listening to me while you're at work, pal. Hope you're well. Shroomy. Adonis, Thopi, Lem, Edward, Supragino, and the rest of you. Let's get into the meat and bones of it, shall we? Let's not hang about. Let's not waste your time, because I know I am guilty of that. I am quite the waffler. Singapore Grand Prix, round 18 of the 2025 season. 6 to go. 6 to go. A championship that is definitely somewhat up in the air, with certainly 2 drivers, maybe a third. We will see after this weekend whether it's a 2 or a 3 horse race. I think this will be the defining Grand Prix of whether Max Verstappen can actually factor in this title championship. Because, mate, if you can add Max into it at the end, like catching up, being there, being a presence, being in the McLaren boys' heads, we could be onto something, right? Because it's been pretty stale, to be honest, the way McLaren are trying to manage every single facet of this title fight between Oscar and Lando has definitely taken the sting out of it. I do think, even regardless of Max, at some point, one of them is going to have to break rank, act in their own self-interest, and go for it. But you add Max into the equation as well, and that's just another factor that could make this unbelievable. I'm hoping for it because I want to be entertained, right? And right now I'm not being entertained enough. It's very entitled of me, but here we go. Round 18, Singapore, the streets of Marina Bay, the original night race. Of course, night races aren't that unique these days, are they? We get plenty of them now, whether it's Qatar, Saudi, Bahrain, but Singapore was where it all began. And Singapore was actually the first... Oh, is that true? I think it is. I think I actually went to Singapore, to the circuit, technically before I ever went to Silverstone. Because growing up, if I wanted to go to a racing track, it'd be Brands Hatch, because that was local to me. And when I was like 13, went to Australia, very lucky too, got family over there. Amazing time. I think I was 13 about then. And we stopped in Singapore on the way. And obviously, you mooch around Singapore, beautiful place, would thoroughly recommend it. Very, very hot, which we will get into, very, very humid. And they had the pit building there because the Grand Prix was going on at the time. I'm sure, yeah, it must have been. Obviously, it was. And I just had a little mooch around it. It was just completely like, there was no one there. You could just walk into the pit buildings. It was pretty cool. And you get the amazing view of the Marina Bay Hotel, which when you stand underneath it, it looks like, because obviously now it's curved at the top, it kind of curves like that. If you're audio only, you're going to have to try and visualize this. But when you're standing underneath it, it looks like it's like a ramp going up. You get a sick angle of it if you stand underneath it and take a picture up. But anyway, I digress. So just me waffling about Singapore. I mean, it is the Singapore Grand Prix. So at least I am talking about something relevant to this weekend. The streets of Marina Bay. So, circuit overview of the Marina Bay Street Circuit. 62 laps, 4.94 kilometres. Not really much undulation at all. It's pretty flat. However, weather could be interesting. I pulled these weather icons from Google just before we went live. So these are the most up-to-date according to Google. And I've got a more detailed breakdown on my computer here. Friday could be a bit wild in terms of weather. Thunderstorms predicted by Google. Anyway, scattered thunderstorms. Rain is a potential kind of throughout the day. And obviously, the closer we get to the actual race weekend, the more accurate these will be. Saturday, and Sunday. Small chance of rain during the Grand Prix at some point. Probably going to be dry. But Friday could be a bit of a washout, which obviously is tough because, you know, around a track like this, you need time. You need your FP1, 2 and 3 to get up to speed, get comfortable around these streets so that you're not, you know, shunting it into the wall straight away. This is a big confidence track. You've got a bunch here, back to back to back, right, where they really do punish your mistakes. Be that Baku, of course, most recently. A lot of people getting caught out there, especially in quali. So, quali could be interesting around here. This is a hard track to overtake around. There's not too many clear and obvious opportunities. You can get moves done into turn 1 if you get a good run out of the final kind of 18, 19 section. Turn 7, decent. It's just so narrow. It's so narrow in so many places. It is hard to get a move done. And Lemon Max Rain Masterclass incoming. If it does rain, again, looking at it right now, odds on it probably won't rain for the Grand Prix. However, rain could be a factor in curtailing the team's abilities to get a full FP1 2 done on Friday. But we'll see. We will see. We will see. I always enjoy Singapore. Well, I'll say that. We'll get on to last year's race because that was, spoiler alert, it's a spoiler, it was a year ago. It was pretty dull. Tyre compound wise, not on the absolute softest scale because there is a C6 this year, which is the softest of the soft available. They've gone C5 to C3 Pirelli this time out. So I believe that was the same range they had last year because C5 was the softest compound last year. Hello, Dan, by the way. Welcome to your first live TOMMO'S stream. Welcome, Dan. Anyone here is live for the first time, let me know in the live chat. Right, it's always good to see new people joining. Because, you know, the reality of this game is that some of you eventually are going to get bored of me and you're going to go and listen to other people and do other things. And so we always need new people coming in, right? It's what's the rate of replacement or something that happens? I'm not so self-absorbed that I believe that you know, adoringly support everything I do and will do forever and always. I appreciate any of you who do out there, but I'm not quite that main character. Not a chance, exactly. Not a chance. But yes, temperature-wise, highs of 31 on Sunday. So there are certain cars, there are certain teams, maybe certain drivers as well who struggle more than others in the heat. And we know this is a big, well, I mean, Qatar most recently was the one that really did, and where Logan had to obviously pull in and Esteban was half passing out. And was it was Singapore where George had his kind of heat stroke moment in Drive to Survive where we got to see behind the scenes. Was it Singapore? Chat, I'm sure you'll let me know. If it wasn't Singapore, it would have been Qatar or something similar, right? And yeah, I mean, this is going to be a tough one. Again, for so many rookies this year as well. Kimi, Ollie, at least Liam has driven around here before and driven well around here before last year, which we'll get more onto in a bit. But yeah, Gabby, Isaac, it's going to be tough for these new kids on the block. It was Qatar, yeah, fair enough. But yeah, if the drivers aren't adequately prepared, you could see them struggling around here as well because it is, again, there's not much opportunity to just kind of chill because it is just corner after corner after corner in that humidity. It's a long race as well. It typically goes on for a while because of the low average speed and the high lap count, 62 laps in total. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to this one. And hopefully it delivers better than last time out in 2024, where Lando Norris did commandingly win this race by over 20 seconds in the end. Had a couple of near misses with the walls, but got the job done in the end. Max Verstappen, did what he could do, but he couldn't keep up with Lando on the day. And Oscar had a disappointing qualifying, but made gains through the race to get to P3. And not much else happened. Quali was a bit interesting. Science obviously crashed in Q3. In the races, you had a few drivers rubbing on the walls. Magnussen retired because he hit the wall. Albon had his car overheating. That could be an issue, certainly, again, with the high temps. If your car's not good at managing the thermals, you could be in trouble. You could absolutely be in trouble. But yeah, last time out, it was actually a bit of a stinker from an entertainment point of view. But again, Lando won with a big margin. Now, obviously, if Oscar had qualified closer to Lando, maybe that margin wouldn't have been so big and it'd have been a McLaren 1-2. They certainly seem to have the quickest car on the day. This year, McLaren is the best all-rounder. I think that's absolutely clear as day. The thing with the Red Bull is with this front wing and floor change that has worked so well in Monza, in Baku, can that performance carry over to a track like Singapore that's very different? There is no, high-speed corners around Singapore, not really. It is all low, so traction zones are a thing in Baku and Monza, sure. But you've got, the temperature is going to be an issue here. The bumps are going to be an issue here. The curbs are going to be an issue here. And that's where Red Bull historically have struggled. Hence why, in 2023, this was like the only race that Max didn't win. So, because he had absolute howler in qualifying because they couldn't get the car into the right setup window. But this is, again, why if Friday is a bit of a washout, which looking at the weather, I mean, look, let me just precipitation, middle of the day, it's kind of like but then by 4 p.m, there's a 40% chance of rain, by the looks of it, in Singapore. Now, obviously, Singapore's a small place, but it's got its own kind of microclimate to an extent, similar to Monaco in a way. And it's probably almost definitely going to rain later on. I'm not sure what time is practice local time, chat. Does anyone know off the top of their head? Jason, you're here live for the first time. Welcome, Jason. Appreciate you taking the time. But yeah, like I say, rain could play a factor on Friday, making it difficult to set up cars, which means that you might have to treat this one a bit like a sprint. And again, it's a bit of a quali former at the minute, so make sure you're on top of that. It's 5:30, is it? Okay, so 5:30, yeah, I mean, as of right now, at 5:30, we're looking at a 40% chance of precipitation, or at least 40. I don't know how it works. Is it 40% chance, or is it 40% of the area of Singapore will have rain? I don't know. You can decide. you can work that one out yourself. Right. So, quali head-to-heads then. How are we looking after 20 of 30 qualifying sessions so far this season? If you don't know, I am keeping tabs. I'm keeping track of how each driver is doing relative to their teammate this season, rather than just head-to-heads, because that doesn't really tell the full story. I think this is a more nuanced, more interesting, more detailed breakdown of where the one-lap pace is between teammates anyway. So, biggest gap on average, of course, is Max to Yuki, 0.630 of a second, over half a second. It's big. Yuki needs to get this down because this is too big. Alonso Stroll, 0.338. Russell Antonelli, 0.270. Leclerc Hamilton, 0.198. Gasly Colapinto, 161. Hajar Lawson, 146. So obviously the first driver being the one who's ahead. And none of those gaps really... I think Colapinto being within a tenth and a half of Gasly is actually pretty impressive given the entire context of, the late call up to the team, how embedded Pierre is now with Alpine, etc., etc. So that's something. Piastri Norris is within a tenth, 0.090. Advantage Oscar. Bortoletto ahead of Hulkenberg, 0.067. Sainz ahead of Albon now, after a good dub for Carlos last weekend, by 0.02 of a second, or 20 thousandths of a second. And closest is Behrman Ocon. Behrman ahead of Ocon by 10 thousandths, or 1/100th of a second. So make of that what you will. This is just information. And by the end of the year as well, I've got my big Excel. It's not an Excel, it's a Google sheet with all the quali times, the relevant times. I try and take away ones that are outliers, and if someone's, hit really bad traffic and had to, get rid of their lap and then they're 3 seconds back. You know what I mean? Like those kind of things. It's hard to be consistent, but I try my best. That's all I can do. That's all we can all do in life, That's all we can all do in life. That has resulted in, somewhat, because quali doesn't dictate races, but this is how the driver standings look after 17 of 24 rounds. Oscar 25 points ahead of Lando. Max 69 points behind Oscar. 255. It's a hell of a task. If anyone can do it, it's Max. But even with that, he needs to outperform Oscar this weekend And really that 7-point buffer between P1 and P2, you know, even if Lando wins, Max is second, Oscar's third, just like last year, to only get, 3-point delta on Max, on Oscar, sorry, is not enough really for Max. Max needs to win this race. I think that's the only way this title fight is still alive with him in it. He needs to win this race. And hope that, 2019, was it 20? No, was it 2019? Was it 20? I think it was 2019. The whole Ferrari, Vettel, Raikkonen, Verstappen pincer movement into turn one, not before turn one. Some chaos like that needs to happen, I think. And Max needs to win. It really does need to go in his favour. But stranger things have happened. Was it 2017? Jeez, that feels like so long. You know what? This feels like so long ago. Yeah, it's 2019 is actually like 6 years ago. That's really, oh God, that's scary, man. That's scary. Holy, that's 2017. Oh yeah, of course, because that's when the cars had the big. I didn't like the fins, the kind of ugly fins off the back. That was not a. In terms of aesthetic generation of F1, for me, 2017 was not it. Did not like the way those cars looked. Did not like the way they looked. I mean, they looked better than the 16 cars, I'll give you that. But those fins just were not doing it for me. 2019 cars were banging. 2019 cars were banging. But yeah, otherwise, honestly, none of these driver stand-ins really matter that much. It's one or done. But team stand-ins do make a difference because of prize money, because of testing time, CFD, all that good stuff. So, McLaren obviously they've not technically got it done because they had a bit of a stinker last race. But they will almost certainly get it clinched in Singapore this time out. Obviously, that battle for second, if Max can turn it on and start winning races and start being a factor in the championship, he can also be a factor in this Constructors and getting Red Bull second, perhaps. But Yuki will need to do his part. He will need to step up and get some points on the board consistently. Otherwise, I think, where you've got, Kimi's not really scoring that much, but more than Yuki. So George and Kimi, you'd expect them to bring points in. Certainly George, and then both Ferrari boys. I think Charles and Lewis. Lewis likes this place. He'll go well round here, I think. And Charles Leclerc, right? So he's always got something in the locker. Williams P5, Aiden Williams P5 safe. I think so. 101 points to Williams, and then 72 points for Racing Bulls behind them. In P6, I think that's enough of a gap. I think as much as it's not allowed for Sainz and Albon to both have a good weekend at the same time, it always has to be one or the other. Typically Albon this year, but finally Sainz found a way to get it done and got it done in a big way around Baku. But yeah, I think Williams P5 is safe. And then Racing Bull 72, Aston Martin 62, Sauber 55, Haas 44. I think Haas now have it almost feels like Haas and Sauber have got their own little battle going on now here. I think Racing Bulls will have enough. Between now and the end of the year, I don't see this changing. Actually, I think this will probably stay the same for P6 Racing Bulls down to P10 Alpine. And sorry, including Williams as well, actually. That's not going to change. I could see Ferrari nabbing P2. Again, if Max can get a run together, those 7 points, that 7-point delta between P1 and P2 exponentially pays off to win races, right? That's why Max has been able to win Constructors' Championships on his own. So he needs to start winning races and Yuki needs to start getting points. But yeah, fingers crossed, Shane Albon will cook this race. Hopefully, by cook you mean not his engine like it did last year because he retired with an overheated engine because he cooked too much. Comes with the territory, doesn't it? Comes with the territory. Right, back to full screen briefly. Before we get into bangers and clangers, any other topics, let me know in the chat. Obviously, got to say this one because this hits kind of close to home, right? Obviously, gutted for Lewis to lose Roscoe because what a lad. And obviously, as a dog dad myself, just man, like the the thought of that is just awful. So yeah, hopefully Lewis can bring his A game this weekend. It would be good to see him driving well, and hopefully the media aren't just harassing him with questions about it, because I'm sure he'll just want to get his head down and get on with the racing. But yes, that was not nice news to hear at all. So rest in peace, Roscoe, and hopefully your old man can do something well on track this weekend, because it's been a tough season for Lewis, and Singapore is one of those venues where it bites, but that Ferrari with a good turbo, or a small turbo should I say, good out of traction zones, maybe they find a way to switch it on. It'd be good to see him fighting towards the front this weekend. Absolutely. Anything else? I mean, it's been a bit of a quiet gap, which is actually kind of nice. There's not been too much craziness. There's not been too much news. Actually, there's been a lot of rumours around Christian, obviously for his future. Obviously came out in the news about him technically now leaving Red Bull, because I can't even remember the details, wasn't it? It was like he was out of the position of team principal, but he hadn't left yet. Now he's actually left the team. You can hear Minton wailing in the background. That's because their mother-in-law's just got home. And yeah, I mean, there's been links to Haas, to Alpine. I mean, look, if I was Christian, like, I'd take a bit of time out. It's mad to think that he started that role. He took over Red Bull Racing as team principal. He was 31. He was a year younger than me when he took that role, and he's been in that environment, this pressure cooker that is F1, for that entire 19 years, whatever it was. Like, I if I was Christian, I'd take a bit of time off. I'm not gonna lie. I'd take a bit of time off. Just do your own thing. Don't knee-jerk jump into anything. Now, obviously, would he want to desperately get back in? Watching races from home must be a very different experience for him, because, again, his entire... I mean, geez, I still feel like a kid, and I'm 32. He started this role when he was 31. We'll see. You can see why his pedigree, his experience would be of value to an Alpine, to a Haas, to whoever. But if I was Christian, I'd take some time off. If I was him. Nordschleife, yes, Dennis. Max driving GT3 around Nordschleife in the EMS. I can't remember the name of the championship. In his Ferrari, doing a superb job. Won the race with Chris Lullum. And yeah, was it the most stacked field? No, because there were some other events going on. But at the end of the day, look, Max is one of the best in the world in a simulator. I've spoken, like, that is an established thing, right? He is the best in the world in F1. And no doubt that skill, that ability translates over to GTs. He races a lot in his spare time. That's kind of what he loves, his investment in Team Redline and Verstappen.com Racing. I mean, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised he's also pretty sick at driving a GT3 car. So, shock. Not surprised. Absolutely not. Next, Jim Clark, Dan. Yeah, I mean, that's it. Jim Clark was well known to be a purveyor of very, very many racing disciplines before his untimely death. So, hopefully Max... Seeing Max on that podium, I'm not going to lie, he seemed so happy. He seemed happier on winning that that NLS race. The biggest smile on his face than we've seen of him on an F1 podium for a while. But he just loves racing, and like, credit to him, man. He loves the game, you know. And everyone's different. There's no one way of doing things. And Max has his approach where he just kind of just absolutely loves it and just racing all the time, whether it's on his sim, whether it's at home, whatever. Is that a necessary component to success? No, it's not. But I would say, you look at Fernando Alonso, I think Fernando's similar, you know. If Fernando was born in the same generation of Max, Fernando would probably be try hard in a sim every weekend as well. You know what I mean? But like, he's that bit older, but Fernando loves it. He's got his own karting track. He's raced and won in Le Mans. Like, you know, these are two of the greatest of all time, as far as I'm concerned. So I certainly don't think it hinders your ability to become one of the best. I'll say that for sure. Anything else? Any other any other interesting rumours about Charles Alholm? I did briefly see there was a bit on Twitter slop about Charles rumours about people talking to his management. I mean, look, I've put on record that I think Charles Leclerc to Mercedes makes sense before, and I mean, look, how long can he gamble? How long can he keep faith in this Ferrari plan? If Charles, well, first of all, Charles should be having conversations with other teams. Just conversations, just to know where the market stands. I think Toto Wolff, if he has been speaking to Charles' team, is pragmatic to do so and is right to do so. It's his job. I think Charles is always going to give Ferrari 2026. And if it is absolutely honking, then possibly leave for 27. But if Ferrari give him enough to show, right, this car can be a podium contention car in 26 and possibly win races in 27, and we have enough of a power unit to give that belief, then I think Charles will stay because his heart's in it, you know. It's going to take a bad 26 for Charles Leclerc to leave Ferrari. But if he does, I think Mercedes just does make sense. I mean, imagine Charles Leclerc, George Russell as teammates. That'd be crazy. Obviously, Kimi Antonelli could step up as well and be the driver to sit alongside Charles. That'd be very cool as well. That'd be good vibes, Charles and Kimi. But then where does George go? I mean, he would fit in at Aston Martin. You know, the tweed vibes of Aston Martin, the old British racing green. He would slip in like a dream, like an absolute dream. But yeah, I think it'll actually happen? I do not. I would not put money on it. But if he was to leave, I think Mercedes makes a lot of sense. And yes, Charles needs to win at least one, absolutely signed. But many a driver has come and gone from this sport who's needed to win at least one and has not. I mean, Kimi won one. And imagine if he hadn't. Like, geez, that would have been absolute heartbreaking. And he smashed and grabbed it in 2007, didn't he? So, game's the game. Game is the game. Anything else before we... Racing stats. Yuki is reserve Aston Martin driver in 26 rumour. Yeah, look, I think... I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think stability is kind of what Red Bull should be pursuing. And we've seen how good Yuki's been in a Racing Bulls. We've seen how good Hadjar's been in a Racing Bulls. We've seen how good Liam's been now. He's getting some form in the Racing Bulls. They're all very good drivers. And I think keeping Yuki in that seat for 26 is the decision I'd be making. If I was Laurent Mekies, I'm not Laurent Mekies. So he will make whatever decision he believes is the right one. And he's worked with Yuki for a long time. I would say that, of course, the Honda connection would draw Yuki over to Aston Martin, and if he's not got a seat, then staying in the paddock and going to Aston Martin as a reserve would make sense. I think that is probably, I think that is a more realistic option than seeing Yuki drop back to Racing Bulls, because if they're going to change the lineup at Red Bull and put Hadjar in the Red Bull next year, then I think they're going to promote Lindblad. I don't think they'd put Yuki back in a Racing Bulls Toro Rosso, because they know what he can do in that car. That's a given. And if they're not going to give him the Red Bull seat, then, you know, they might as well cut their tyres, to be frank. Like, I just don't see that the logic behind keeping him if they're not going to give him the chance for next year, which I think they should. So, yeah, I think that rumour is valid. I think that rumour is valid because I do think that is... if they don't keep Yuki in the car next year, I think that's probably what's going to happen. But yeah, like I say, I think they should keep... Because I think, you know, it doesn't hurt to just give Lindblad another season in F2, give him loads of FP1s next year to really get up to speed and get comfortable and not rush him in. I know Racing Bulls is built as a junior team. That is their thing, right? But you've also got this whole new regulation shift. You don't know where the lie of the land's going to be. I just think you don't need to make that... I think you don't need to make that knee-jerk decision, because I do think that we've seen Yuki's potential, what he can deliver, and it's very high. So give him the chance to showcase that, Because if Yuki can, in 26, drive a Red Bull quick, right, this new Red Bull that doesn't have Newey's fingerprints on it, Washay's car, then happy days. They've got a driver that I think is very marketable. I think Yuki is a huge he's a great lad, of course he is, and yeah, I just think it ticks all the boxes to persist with him and try and make it work. But we'll see. We will see. I disagree. F1 experience is more valuable. Frog, of course it's more valuable. I'll give you that. But I just think with how young Lindblad is, what's the need? What's the need to rush him in? And I've not heard any rumours of anyone else trying to nab Arvid off of Red Bull's books. So it's not like in the Verstappen situation where Toto couldn't offer him a seat and then Red Bull kind of swindled him out from underneath his nose. So you know what I mean? So it's one of them. It is one of them. Anything else before we get onto bangers and I think that's the broad much of a muchness. So let's get back to the graphics on screen and let's get to bangers and clangers, shall we? Bangers and clangers for the 2025 Singapore Grand Prix, starting with the race winner. Who's going to win the 2025 Singapore Grand Prix? My prediction is Lando Norris. I think the way Lando extracted pace around Singapore last year, he's now behind in this title fight, this growing narrative that perhaps Max could factor. I think it's all kind of taken a little bit of eyeball off of Lando, and I think that can only help to serve him. Very quick around here last year. Yes, a bit close to the wall a couple of times, but the pace you cannot deny. The race pace was excellent. The quali pace was excellent. I think he could win this one. So I'm going with Lando Norris to win. As for you, well, first of all, 871 of you voted. Thank you very much for voting. I do appreciate you all taking the time. Make sure you subscribe to the Tommo YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter at Tommo McCluskey. Follow me on Instagram at Tommo McCluskey as well. And you can get involved because I post these polls on Twitter and YouTube community. Sometimes I forget on Instagram, which is what I did this time. I did forget to post it on Instagram. Sorry about that. But anyway, follow me on all things so that you can see me do things. All right. And your race winner prediction is Oscar Piastri. You think Oscar's going to bounce back after a honking Baku. And 41% of you think he's going to win this time out. 27% of you think Lando Norris. 21% Max Verstappen. Big percentage there. And 5% of you, Charles Leclerc. I rate the delusion. But yeah, Oscar, look, he needs to bounce back. Everyone has bad weekends. This is by far his worst of the season. In terms of Baku was his worst of the season. And your bounce back ability, it's not how you fall, it's how you get back up, right? And if he wants to be a serious title challenger, he needs to not allow that bad weekend to define the rest of his season. And we're going to see a big challenge here for Oscar because, look, as much as he's ice cold, only in his third year, all of that, he's still only human. He's going to make mistakes. He's young. I still think he's going to get it done. I still think he's going to win this title. If I had to put money on it today, I'd put money on Oscar over Lando, over Max. This is going to be a big weekend for him. Big weekend for Aussie. For our Aussie. As for banger driver this weekend, I've gone Liam Lawson. Now, Liam's had a very challenging 2025, but over the last few weekends, we're seeing the old Liam. We're seeing the Liam that jumped into the car in Zandvoort. We're seeing the Liam that jumped into the car in Singapore last year and delivered a superb performance. Put Max out in Q2, by the way, as well. Like, Liam has it in him. I'm absolutely sure of it. It's been tough on a human level for him, absolutely, this year. But we're starting to see him come back now and race Hajar way closer. I think Liam's going to have a very good weekend this weekend. I think Liam, points, lovely jubbly, would love to see it. So here's my pick for banger drive. Your pick for banger drive this weekend is Franco Colapinto. 18% of the vote. He, of course, deputised as well last year. Not deputised for Williams. He replaced Sargent at Williams. first race was, of course, Baku. And then Singapore delivered the goods. I think he out-qualified Alex, didn't he? And he raced really well. He was very impressive. This was one of his most impressive drives during that stint that has now got him into F1. Absolutely delivered. Love your work, Franco. Great job. Can he do it in an Alpine? Now, of course, this isn't a particularly power-sensitive track. However, Alpine's, lack of ultimate horsepower and ERS issues, not quite at the level of the other teams. From that point of view, could hold him back, but Franco has been getting closer to Pierre. And he's out-qualified Pierre quite a few times now, hasn't he? And let me get my little... I'm sure he's done a few dubs now in a row over Pierre in quali. Let's get me old spreadsheet up. What we got here? Where are you? There you are. Gasly, Colapinto, yeah. So Colapinto's quicker. Yeah, so he's quicker last weekend, quicker the one before that. Then Gasly was quicker, then Colapinto quicker, Gasly quicker, Gasly quicker, Gasly quicker, Gasly quicker. Yeah, so in the last 4, it's 3-1 to Colapinto, if we're looking at head-to-heads, which we don't because they're not that accurate. But again, that's why I've got my quali gap thing, right? This is how it all comes together, This is how it all comes together. But yes, Franco, 18% of the vote, you think it will deliver once again. 13% of you think Max is going to have a banger. 12% of you think Lewis Hamilton, love it. 8% Fernando Alonso. I almost put Fernando actually for my banger driver because he went well round here last year. But I didn't because I thought Liam instead. That's just the way it goes. Right, so banger driver's done. On to clanger driver. For me, I've gone Yuki. Now look, the logic here, I love you, Yuki, I'm sorry. The logic here is that last year, Checo had a great Baku. Almost won that race. Could have won that race if it wasn't for Lando holding him up in that middle stint and him and Sainz having their little tiff at the end. Then we went to Singapore and Checo was out in Q2 and only recovered to, I want to say, P10 in the race, maybe P9. Around Singapore, Checo wasn't able to deliver. Now, Yuki had his best weekend so far in Baku, in the Red Bull. But now we're going to Singapore. I think it's going to be a difficult weekend. I would be surprised if Yuki gets into Q3. It's not what I want to say. It's not what I want. But I'm trying to outscore you lot, right? This is a competition. Yeah, this is head-to-head. So I'm trying to be like, right, who's actually going to have a banger? Who's actually going to... And unfortunately, I've not got too much hope for Yuki, I'm afraid. Sorry. Look, reverse jinx is a thing. Maybe the reverse jinx will pay off this time, but I've gone Yuki Clanger, I'm afraid. As for you, you've gone Nico Hulkenberg. 18% of the vote. Very interesting. Not seen Nico get this kind of vote share before. And to be fair, I guess in quali, Gabby has kind of had one over Nico. What? This is... Hang on. Jeez. That's crazy. Right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The last 8 quali sessions, according to my graph, Bortoletto has out-qualified Hulkenberg. 8! Jeez. Now, I think that's more credit to Gabby than Nico being, he's washed. Ugh. But still, like around a track like Singapore where it's so hard to overtake, where quali is going to make or break your weekend, I kind of get it. I kind of see it. But still. 11% Lando Norris. I think he's going to have it. He did get unnecessarily, almost took the front wing off. And then where George crashed in 23 at the end, he also hit that wall. Lando did last year. Just glanced it. But we know George just glanced it and it ended his race. So Lando needs to... And it's Singapore. It's the humidity. It's the challenge of it. It is to stay focused and concentrating on what you need to do. But I don't agree. I think Lando will have a good weekend. But 11% of you think he's going to have a clanger. 10% of you think Lance Stroll. And 9% Andrea Kimi Antonelli gets the rookie tax. And in reality, and this has always been my biggest criticism of Lance Stroll, he's got a rookie mistake in him. He's still got a rookie mistake in him. And this kind of track will expose that if you're not careful. So, those are bangers and clangers for drivers. What about teams? My banger team this weekend, I'm going Racing Bulls. I think they're going to be quick. I think Liam's going to be quick. I think Hajar's going to be quick. So, what can I say? I think the Bulls are going to race. And your banger team is Ferrari. 32% of the votes. Charles and Lewis are going to have a banger, according to you lot. And again, look, small turbo, traction zone, Singapore. They always tend to run pretty well around here. See Mercedes in 23, but then they kind of picked the right strategy, so they had the better tyre compound at the end. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see a Ferrari on the top step of the podium, no question. I mean, especially Lewis, man. Especially given, oh, mate, if Lewis was able to somehow win this race, yeah, that would be I'd be a mess watching that one. That's for sure. 19% McLaren, banger team. 10% Red Bull, 10% Racing Bulls. So big belief in McLaren, which I mean, that they should be quick around here. And again, with the high temperatures, the McLaren's ability to nurse their tyres through a stint, seemingly way better than anyone else, is going to surely pay dividends here. And finally, Clanger team, I've gone with Mercedes because I think the temps are going to hurt them. The temps is the main factor here. I think it's going to be challenging for Kimi as a rookie who has had some moments. I think Singapore is going to be real tough for him. And as much as I think George is probably going to hold up his end of the bargain, I think that car's going to struggle in the heats. So I've gone Clanger Mercedes for me. And you've gone Sauber, 20% of the vote. I think Hulk and Sauber's going to have a bit of a stinker this weekend. 18% Alpine, kind of crazy. Sauber getting more of the vote than Alpine, but maybe this will play into Alpine's strengths this track this weekend. 11% Red Bull and 9% McLaren. So there we go. Bangers and clangers. Those are yours. Oscar, Franco, Nico, Ferrari, Sauber. These are mine. Lando, Liam, Yuki, Racing Bulls, Mercedes. So all different. But you'll have to tune in on Sunday evening. Sunday at some point. Sunday after the race. I usually try and go live within 4 hours of the race finishing. Because that's enough time for, the result to be finalised. Everyone to come out with their post-race stuff. So I can kind of fully get a good understanding of how everyone's race went. So make sure you're here after 4 hours or so after the race on Sunday. I will post when it's going to go live beforehand so you don't miss it. If you do want to watch these live, like the Wood, Ligo, Ricky, Max, Bavani, Joe, General, DH, Alex, Potet, Fred, and the rest of you. Right, anything else before we wrap here? I think there's a couple of super chats actually I might have missed out. Thank you, Louise, for the super chat. Appreciate it. I'm not the biggest Max fan, but I'd like to see him win just to set the championship on fire. Completely agree. This championship needs some fire. As much as, again, I think it would come eventually. Oscar, Orlando will eventually start acting in their own self-interest and not being uwu teammates. Having Max there as well can only make this championship more interesting, more exciting. And as much as, I'm all for seeing a new driver win, and I've got a lot of love for all three drivers. I really do. I just want to see a scrap, and I'd like to see someone new win, to be honest. So that then makes, okay, Lando or Oscar. But at the same time, if Max can win from here, even though it's him winning again, I can absolutely accept that because, damn, he would have scrapped for it, he would have fought for it, and it would have been blooming entertaining. So, yes. I agree, Louise. I agree. Thank you for your super chat. Thank you, Craig, as well, for treats for your beautiful sausage dog. Thank you, Craig. I'll get some good ones. I'll add that to the Minton treat fund. Appreciate the support, Craig. Thank you. Thank you, Mish, as well. Watching Bathurst next weekend. Honestly, no plans to, because I'm actually away next weekend, but I always like to catch the highlights, because that just, well, actually, the main thing I like to watch, honestly, Bathurst, is qualifying, because the way these cars go round the mountain, like full tilt, these massive, big, lumbering beasts, like, it's just amazing. Love it. The race is always chaos as well. There's always a bunch going on, but actually qualifying is arguably my favourite part of Bathurst. So I will do my best to check it out. Probably not live, because again, Australia, and I'm not Australia, and also I'm away, but definitely. Still think everyone should try a supercar style top 10 shootout, especially around Monaco. Gladiator, agree. They need to, and clearly they are doing something to Monaco, because I'm sure you'll have watched Matt and Tommy's chat with Alex Albon, and I'm pretty sure he said in that, didn't he? He was like, alluded to there are going to be changes to Monaco next year, but they're not publicly known, as far as I'm aware anyway, what exactly those changes are going to be. And I think a top 10 style shootout, one-shot quali, whatever you want to call it, for Monaco, as well as like try and create at least just one overtaking opportunity. These cars are a bit smaller now, which the feeling, I know that these cars do feel smaller to drive from a driver's point of view as well. Hopefully it all comes together to actually make Monaco watchable on a Sunday, because as much as I am a Monaco supporter, I am absolutely a Monaco supporter, I will of course concede that Sunday is way too dull. Way too dull. But yes, excellent. Right, okay, I think we're done. Thank you all for taking the time. Dan, Al-Swara, Gladiator, Lemon, Mish, Elliot, Gladiator, Ricky, Patrick, Lou, NK McFrin. I always see your name. I never know how to say it. NK McFrin. Freya Dawood, Racing Stats, of course. Thomas, Ligo, Christopher, Cian, Rayner, Oscar Peroni, close but no cigar. Yard Animal, Mish, Sammy, Elliot, Lewis, Alex, TJ Star, Blade, and the rest of you. It's a pleasure as always. See you on Sunday for the post race. My name's Tomo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.